What is going on, guys? Welcome back to my channel. This is Leo's Nerd Talk, and today we're going to be going over Pluribus. So let's get into that. Hi, my name is Leo, and if you guys like talking about movie, TV show, video game related, or just anything nerdy, you are in the right place. And like I said, today we're talking about Pluribus. So without further ado, let's get into the review. Now, I was super excited for this show just because this is created by Vince Gilligan, the same creator of Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. And for me, Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul are probably my two favorite shows of all time. So I was just very, very excited for this, and I had very high expectations for Pluribus to see what this was. But the concept, when I first heard about it, I never really watched the trailer. I just kind of heard what the concept really is. I didn't understand what it was trying to do until I saw the first episode, and it all kind of made sense. So we're going to get into all that today, of course. I'm going to try to do a little small section before my full spoilers, but I'm going to do a little small spoiler-free section, just kind of give you my general thoughts about it. Did I like it? Did I not like it? What I think about just the whole general, concept of this. And then we'll go into full-on spoilers towards the end of the video, and I'll give you my full rundown of everything. I won't go episode by episode because that'll be forever. I'll just kind of go and cherry pick all the most important moments that I felt were the most significant, the biggest reviews and things like that. We'll start off my spoiler-free reviews. I'm not going to go into pros and cons. I'm just going to go into a full overview. I think the show is fantastic. I think it is a very, very fun, unique concept. And just basically the general concept is there's a virus that kind of gets spread out, and this virus essentially makes everybody into one singular hive mind, and it just makes them into very helpful, charitable, happy people, but they do want everybody to be part of the hive mind. And you have a couple of people that are immune, one being Rhea Seymour, I always forget her name, Rhea Seehorn, who is in Better Call Saul, and she plays Karasuka. She's one person that is immune to this virus. She's a book writer, things like that. She has a little bit of a backstory before we get into the show and things like that, but overall, she obviously is in a lot of distress and has no idea what's going on and doesn't know what to do. And it just leaves her in this really big mystery of figuring out, what is this thing that is going on? What is it coming from? Is it a virus? What is happening, essentially? And through all that, like I said, we'll get into more spoilers later, but through all that, you get really great performances, really great directing from Vince Gilligan and some of the other people that, of course, directed some of the other episodes, because Vince Gilligan didn't direct every single episode, and he didn't even write every single episode either. But of course, he is the creator of this show, but you can definitely see Vince Gilligan's style kind of seeping into this. If you've seen Better Call Saul or Breaking Bad, you can see that kind of style. He loves that imagery. He loves the symmetry of people walking around, or different buildings or shot choices that are very symmetrical. He loves kind of that style. The color grade is very similar. This is still in Albuquerque, like Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. So he definitely loves that area, and I'm assuming because of the color palette and things like that. A very great mystery of what is really going on. You do kind of get a general consensus, of what is going on at the beginning of the show in the first episode, because it kind of gives you a little kind of teaser of what this really is, what this virus really is, or what it comes from. We get way more details later on, but you do kind of know what this is right off the bat. It shows you kind of how the infection spreads and how quickly it can spread. So, but again, yeah, overall great performances, great shot choices, great directing. I think the show has some funny moments, a lot of great drama. This is very much a kind of one person show, one cast show, even though there's millions and millions of people in this show, from all the people that are infected and the few people that are immune. For the most part, it is all on the shoulders of Karasuka, and because everyone else that's around her that's infected by this hive mind is very kind of monotone and mellow, really shows very, very little emotion besides just being happy all the time. So there's not much like hard performances coming from them. Obviously, they have to perform to pull off that kind of vibe and stuff. But for the most part, all the emotions and things like that are coming from Karasuka, the character played by Rhea. So that's pretty much it in terms of casting. There's a lot of other, like I said, people that are immune, but they're not very prominent in the show. They just show up here and there. So, but regardless, even though being kind of a lot of the weight on her shoulder, I do think she carries the show very well. She's obviously an amazing actress, and I very much love to see her in more roles. She hasn't done really too many roles beyond shows from Vince Gilligan, but I would like to see her in more roles. I do think she's a very great actress. I also do like how we just slowly peel back the layers of what exactly is going on here. We're getting things little by little and seeing where things are going. Um, in terms of like a little negative here is I don't know how we're going to stretch this show for 4 seasons. I know it's already been greenlit for 2 for sure, but Vince Gilligan has said multiple times that he does want to make the show into a 4 season show. I'm not sure how he's going to stretch all that out, especially because it feels like we're already on the time crunch here. There has been a timer set of what is going to happen, a certain thing that's going to happen, and that timer is not a long time. It's very, very quick. So to figure out how we're going to stretch this whole thing into 4 different seasons, I'm not too sure how that's going to happen, and I'm very interested to see how they're going to stretch it. There's some ideas and things that we kind of figured out in the season finale that you can see how you can stretch that, but as a whole, as the whole concept, this definitely feels like a one and done or maybe 2 season and done type of show, because it does feel very tight knit, and it feels like there's so much going on at the same time. Like I said, there's like a time crunch here where you can't really meander or really stretch out the performances, stretch out the story, stretch out the lore or the mystery, because we've already revealed so much in this first season of what exactly this is. So how are you going to keep your audience engaged? I'm fully in. I'm hooked. I want to see how this ends. But how are you going to keep people engaged? There was a pretty big cliffhanger at the season finale. So I'm not sure how people are feeling about that. If they're upset about that, or if they're very excited, if it left them in awe and they're ready for more. I'm not too sure how people feel about it at the moment. I haven't really seen any other reviews, but again, that is just one negative I have here, is how are we going to stretch this story? Because it is a great story, but at the surface level of what we already know, it seems like we're really deep into it, and I'm not sure how much more they can reveal. But it is kind of hard to talk about a show like this without going into full spoilers. So this is your fair warning. We are going into full spoilers after this moment. So if you haven't seen the show and you want to watch the show without being spoiled, click off, go watch the show, come back, and listen to my thoughts. But starting off right off the bat, so we do get a little bit of information of what this virus is. On episode 1, we see the scientists that received a signal from somewhere that we don't know at this point in time, but they receive the signal from somewhere that seems to be a recipe. And this recipe is for disaster. But no, seriously, it is for a virus that essentially affects the mind, and it causes you to be extremely happy, extremely helpful. But on top of that, you want to make other people part of the mind, or the hive mind. And it's kind of like in the nature of this virus. They can't help it. That is their, like, one of their sole purposes is getting everybody to be part of the hive mind. They even say in later episodes that, it's a gift from the distant location that we'll talk about. It is a gift, and they want to share this gift. They want to share the hive mind because they think everybody that's going to be in the hive mind is so much more happier. But essentially, they do receive this recipe, they create the recipe, and something happens, of course, in the lab, and it spreads quick, because after they get a few hundred people or so, they're able to figure out how to make this airborne, and they just spread it throughout the entire air and infect essentially the entire world except for 12 people that are seemingly immune. Why they're immune, we're not too sure. We're not too sure that yet. We haven't discovered that from what I can recall. But we just know that they are immune, but there is a way to make them join the hive mind. They're not immune in a sense where they can never be infected. It's just more so they have to cater the virus to their specific DNA using stem cells. So that's kind of one thing that they've been trying to figure out, the people in the hive mind, is how do we get these stem cells and infect these new people so they can be part of the hive mind. And the difficult part is, because the people that are in part of the hive mind, they can't lie. They have to be honest. They have to be truthful. And they're very polite and nice. They won't do it against people's will. They want to ask, they want everybody to volunteer themselves into the hive mind. But if there is another way to get it without having to inject and pull out stem cells, they will do so, which we do figure out something in the season finale. But essentially, that is what is going on. Is you have this hive mind from a alien virus, and they just want to spread this hive mind because they think it's the best thing ever, and they want to go from this world and maybe send the signal out with the recipe again to a different world that has other people or aliens, and just continuously spread the hive mind. And this is very interesting because we get revealed around, like I said, I'm not going to go in order. I'm just going to go overall spoilers. We get a reveal in about like episode 7 or 8 that the origin of this hive mind virus comes from Kepler 22b, which is a real planet that we discovered. It's an exoplanet that seems very likely for life, but we're not too sure yet. But in this show, it seems like that is where the aliens sent the signal out so other people can join the hive mind. And that is where we get revealed that Kepler 22b is the origin of this virus. They sent the signal out. We got here Earth, and now the hive mind's connected to Earth. And that's very interesting because we really only talk about people in the hive mind that are on Earth. But are these people also connected to everybody that is on Kepler 22b? That's very interesting. I just literally thought about that as I was talking, and that seems very interesting to me. So I'm not sure if that's something that we can get revealed or how that would work, because I don't remember them really saying that they're connected with them or not. I would have to watch that episode again during that section. But from what I recall, I don't think they ever reference saying that they also feel everything that's going on Kepler 22b. But that's just a little thought that I had. But anyways, and then of course you have Carol, who is trying to get in contact with everybody else that is immune, but no one really wants to deal with her. No one wants to help with her. They're all just kind of very content with the situation here. Some of them are using it to their advantage because they can't, since the people in the hive mind can't lie or always want to help. If you ask them for whatever you want, they will get it for you without question. It is a very, very interesting and unique system, the way this hive mind works. Like every single person has every single skill in the entire world. They know every single language. Like there was a scene where there's like a 12-year-old girl flying a plane because of the hive mind. She knows the knowledge of an actual pilot. So it's very interesting how this hive mind works. It's very unique, and it's also very creepy. And I also know a lot of people kind of mentioned that this feels like an AI type of movie or show, I should say. And Vince Gilligan said that he had no intention to make this into like an AI thing, but you can definitely see where people are coming from in that sense, where you have all these people that just seemingly feel the same. They all know everything in the world that everybody knows, simply something like a ChatGPT, Google AI, where they just know everything that's on the internet. And there's not no personality, there's no individuality. It's all just a series of numbers. Essentially, it's all just a system. And so that's kind of where I understand where people are saying that this is kind of like an AI type of show, and I can definitely get that. But I mean, Vince Gilligan said that's not what he's going for, but it is nice to kind of theorize and see and kind of pick apart things that seem like such a big topic in modern day. But he said that's not really what he was going for, but it's still a very interesting concept, a very interesting idea to kind of think about if this is kind of AI. But essentially, little by little, Carol is starting to figure out things of this hive mind. And like I already kind of mentioned them, like they can't lie, they always tell the truth, they'll give you whatever you want. And it's a very interesting concept. And so since she figured this stuff out, she's trying to reach out to all the other people that are immune. And we get introduced to a character named Manusos, who is in Paraguay, and he's pretty much made zero contact with any of the hive mind because he thinks they're just dangerous, and he wants to stay away from them as much as he possibly can. And he finally agrees to kind of go meet with Carol, but on his own means. He doesn't want them to fly him over. So he travels miles and miles and miles to get to Carol to figure out how to essentially destroy this hive mind. And through this, it's a full kind of couple of episodes of his travel. And this is where I kind of feel like this starts to meander a little bit, because we're seeing his travel, and we're seeing Carol starting to kind of engage herself with the hive mind and starting to be okay with the situation. So now we have conflicting ideas, where at the beginning Carol was so against it and wanting to revert everything back, but now she's starting to slowly fall in love with one of the persons that is part of the hive mind, and now she feels like everything is okay. And then we have Manusos coming, who wants to talk to her and figure out how to save the world, how to revert everything back to normal. And then now you have that conflicting idea towards the end. But essentially it all kind of works out in its way. But there's some other things that we also figure out that are very, very crazy. Like their source of food is humans. Like they eat humans, so all the dead people that end up dying from for whatever reason, they'll freeze them, they'll source them out, and now they eat them. So this virus makes them cannibals. That's their only source of protein. Um, and there's other thing that kind of goes on as well that's very crazy, where it's, since there's such a happy hive mind, if you make them too upset, it essentially short circuits the entire hive mind and they all kind of shut down. So whatever anybody was doing, they have like this kind of seizure like effect. So if someone's flying a plane, that plane goes down and it crashes. Someone's driving a car, they lose control, they can crash. If someone was climbing a ladder, they'll fall off that ladder because of the seizure. So there was a moment in the beginning, towards the beginning of the episode, where emotions are high and this seizure like thing happens. And because of that, like over 100,000 people died in an instant, which was absolutely insane. So you always have to tiptoe your way around when you're around the hive mind people, because you don't want to tip them off and you don't want to overload their emotions, because otherwise it will happen again. And it happens multiple times throughout the show. So many people die every single time this happens. And now you're lessening the people you're going to save if they end up figuring out a way to save everybody. But of course, a lot of the big reveals happens towards the end of the show. And one thing that Manuso's kind of figured out, and I'm not sure exactly what it is, they don't really explicitly say what he's doing, but it seems like he figured out that when they go into their little seizure kind of trance, there's a radio station that seems like the frequency gets kind of cut off. So is their hive mind connected somehow through frequency or through radio waves or something like that? That's a very interesting concept, and I'm not sure how they're going to explore that, but I think that's what he figured out. And I'm excited to see how he's going to continue doing that research, how they're going to use that knowledge to revert everything, because it seemed like he was trying to use that blockage of the radio signal because they're in their little seizure mode to try to somehow talk to the real person that the body belongs to and kind of bring them forth and kind of revert who's in control. And that seems very interesting. And I think that's something that could possibly work if they do it at a larger scale, where they maybe destroy the radio tower that the station is coming from or the radio waves are coming from, or whatever they're going to do. It seems like things are going to get really big, because Carol at the end of the show essentially asked the hive mind to bring her an atom bomb, and they can't tell her no. So they legitimately bring her one. I'm not sure if she was kidding. It's in a container, so we don't see it. But at this point, anything is possible. And so essentially at this point, Carol has an atom bomb in her front yard, ready to go if they need to use it. But I do think they're going to go more into a simple route and try to figure out things about this radio waves and this radio station and things like that. So overall, it's a very interesting show, a great sci-fi little thriller drama. And this hive mind, it seems very interesting. But again, I'm not sure where we're going. I'm not sure how much more we can really stretch this idea, especially like, again, it seems like we've already gotten so many things revealed at this point. What their food source is, maybe how their hive mind works with the radio station or the radio waves, how to kind of temporarily paralyze them, or now we have the atom bomb, are we just gonna nuke them? Who knows? So it seems very interesting. I'm not sure how much more we can stretch this idea. There are obviously things that we don't know yet of essentially how why these people are immune. Is there other ways to revert it back? There's more things that they can obviously reveal to us and stretch out and things like that. But at this point in time, I think the show is solid. I think if it lands the plane, it's going to be one of the best shows of all time. But as of right now, it's very up or down, where some of the episodes felt like they were kind of meandering, really just trying to stretch out the runtime. Some episodes felt a little useless. Like we would find out one piece of information, but then the rest of the episode was kind of just showing things. There wasn't really much going on. So it's very up and down. It needs to be polished a little bit. I know Vince Gilligan is an amazing writer, so I know he can land this plane, if he's given the chance to. And another thing too that I want to mention before we get into the kind of my final thoughts is the reason why too, where I don't know how we're going to stretch this out to multiple seasons, is we're on a time crunch. I've already mentioned this, but the reason why we're on a time crunch is because they need the stem cells from the immune people to revert them into the hive mind. And the only way we get the stem cells before is you had to inject someone and pull the stem cells out from the person itself. But Carol's character in the past froze her eggs. And because her eggs are frozen somewhere, the hive mind knows exactly where it's at because someone obviously had to do that for her. So they know that knowledge. And now they have her eggs and they can pull the stem cells from that. And they pretty much let her know that you have about 30 days until we can figure out a virus that will work for you and we can revert you into the hive mind. They let her know that in the season finale. And so, yeah, like, how are we going to stretch 30 days into 4 seasons or 2 or 3? Maybe you can stretch it into 2. Well, but again, this first season takes place over 75 days. So again, now we have to really crunch things down. So that's where I don't know how fast we're going to be moving, or if there's just going to be complications with trying to figure out the whole thing with the stem cells, and now they have more time. That's probably what's going to happen, is the doctors can't figure out how to pull the stem cells out of the eggs, and now Carol is not on a 30-day time crunch, and they're going to be given a little bit more time. But who knows? I'm not the writer here. That's kind of the way I would kind of get around that time crunch that you already set up in the first season that you want to stretch out to 4 seasons. But that's just me. But overall, again, this is a great show. I highly recommend it. If you enjoy Vince Gilligan's shows, this is going to be a lot more of that in terms of the style, the shot choices, great performances, a very nice drama, great dialogue, things like that. So I am very much hooked. I'm very excited for season 2, whenever that's coming. I saw some reports that it is going to be a while till we get season 2, unfortunately. But whenever that does come out, I am going to be there day 1 for sure. That is going to be it for this one, guys. Let me know what you guys think about Pluribus in the comment section down below. I'd definitely love to hear our guys' thoughts. But again, if you guys like talking about movies, TV show, video game related, or just anything nerdy, you are in the right place. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. I'll see you guys on the next video. Thank you.